one, not good enough to really get the attention of my parents, because that's a wound that came up for me as I started my business was, I feel like I'm not able to gather attention, which is all a part of business, right? It's like when you start
Right.
business, I feel like you go on this like self-knowing journey. Like you start to learn more and more about yourself and what your beliefs were and kind of what holds you back from success.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a
Hi, Carissa. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Charisse. How are you? How are things?
Good. I love the red lip.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We'll start off so everybody gets to know you a little bit. Can you share a little bit about what you do and your background?
Totally. So what I do is I help coaches who change their business model from one-on-one to one-to-many, creating online assets, being able to sell things online so that they can regain time in their business.
Oh, I
And
like
so
that.
yeah. And so just a little bit of my background was, I'm been huge in tech and understanding, marketing and technology ever since I was in high school. So, and I'm 37 now. After 30, you kind of forget your age a little bit,
Right.
at least me.
For me too. I'm like, am I 30, 33, 30?
At
Oh, no,
30, yeah.
36. Especially COVID messed that up for me. I feel like I missed 2 years of my life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what did I do? Totally.
Yeah,
But yeah,
so share a little bit how you got into that because we were talking a bit before and you have a really interesting journey about like where you started and where you are now. And I think it's so inspiring and I would love for you to share that with my audience.
yeah, definitely. So I think where I started was when, like, you can imagine, when I remember laying in bed, right? Laying in bed, and I used to sneak Starburst, little pieces of Starburst from under my pillow. And I would open the wrapper and I could almost smell the strawberry scent, from the strawberry Starburst. And I used to pop it in my mouth kind of in the middle of the night. And the reason why I used to do things that way and kind of sneak things under my pillows and kind of eat them throughout the night was because a lot of times we didn't have food on the table as a young kid. My parents were divorced. My dad was a drug addict for a lot of his life. And my mom, she just remarried and started a family. And it just felt like my parents weren't as involved in my life as I would like. Obviously, every kid wants to, at least in my perspective, right? I feel like kids love when their parents are around and like when they're, really building that, like having a bond with them, hanging out with them. I used to hear a lot when I became a parent that, teenagers don't really want to be around you or whatever. I feel like that's not quite true. I feel like a lot of kids like to be, at least for me anyway, my perspective. I longed for that as a kid. I longed for being around my parents, getting to know them getting to know me. And so it was like that for years until I was in my 20s and I got remarried. Or not remarried, I got married for the first time. Oh, in my 20s, I got married, had two kids, and life felt like it was on the up and up. And then something happened there where he started to get involved in some addictions as well, got into drugs,
Your
and
your husband, your
my
first
husband at the
husband. Yeah.
time, my first husband, and he started getting into drugs, and I started to seeing the patterns from when I was young. And he was a little bit more absent, maybe And when he was around, he was a little bit more abusive. And it got to a point where I remember this day. I got up in the morning, and me as a wife, I like to help with, preparing lunch and all of that. It's just my nature, right? So I got up in the morning, got his lunch ready like normal. He went off to work, and I remember I saw my keys on the mantle, and it was like lightning. Like I just hit me in that moment. It felt just like a divine source of energy that said, it's time. Today's the day. So I walked back in my room calmly, quietly, because we lived at his parents' house, so I didn't want to wake anybody up. Kind of tiptoeing. I literally grabbed like 7 trash bags and just loaded them up, put them in my car, loaded them up, put it in the car. And interestingly enough, my 2 kids we had at the time, or still have, but like my 2 kids, they were asleep the whole time, which is not usual. Usually they wake up when I wake up or somewhere around that time. But they slept the whole time. And on the last trash bag of clothes, they woke up. I got them ready, and we walked out of the room with the last bag. And as soon as I closed the door, my mother-in-law comes out. Where are you going? And I said, quick thinking. I said, I'm going to do some laundry. Our washing machine just so happened not to be working at that time. So I said, I'm going to go do laundry. We're going to go to the laundromat. And
Really quick thinking.
yeah, quick think. I was like, oh, that was the first thing that came to mind. Again, it just felt like it just was just meant to, I don't know, it was like just quickly. And I told her that, and she gave the kids a kiss. And I gave her a hug, and we walked out, and I never went back. So
Was
from
the
there,
mother-in-law? Oh, sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Was the mother-in-law or like was 2 parents? Was it her? You said his parents, so it was like his
Yeah.
father and mother.
Mhm.
Did they witness any of the his abusive nature?
They did from time to time, and they would talk about it and talk to him. And that was pretty much the gist of it. It was kind of just like, hey, don't do that anymore. Stop that kind of thing. And so it just became like, okay, it came to a decision that I needed to make. It was like, do I stay and see, hoping that like things would get better? Or do I make a decision or because what if they don't, right?
Right. And
What
how
if
old were
things
your
get-
kids at the time?
Yeah, my daughter she was 3, and my son was 1.5. He's about to turn 2, getting ready to turn 2. Yeah, 3 and 1.5, almost 2. Yeah. So 3 and 1. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a critical age because you can get them away from that, and then hopefully they won't have memories when they're that young. But once they get older and they can remember and witness everything, that's kind of like setting that, like that's a standard that, heaven forbid, they like accept into their life. So that was so brave of you to walk away at that time.
Yeah, and that was one of the drivers in my like over time before this decision even felt real was, do I stay hoping things would get better, but like the kids have that as their foundation, right? Because as they're growing at the age they were at, I was like, okay, if I stay, my son could potentially think this is okay.
Right.
And same for my daughter. She could potentially feel like this is okay for men to be or behave. And so it was a very tough decision because I'm very family oriented. I like to keep families together, especially because my parents were divorced, which is why it took a while to make a decision. However, it was like I had to do it for them and for myself. Ultimately, it came down to like, do I want to continue, feeling this way or like having this on the daily? And it just became a point. I have to say no. I have to choose. It's kind of like, do you love yourself enough to choose differently, for yourself and all of that. And that's really just what it came down to for me. And from then, I just went on my own self-loving journey and I had a job at the time, and I was, I had a W-2 job, and was just working a lot. I was working a lot of hours, and I started again to see the pattern of not being there for my kids as much because I was working so much. And then it struck me, maybe I should start a business. Maybe I should start a business. And
we've all been there.
Yeah.
That's maternity. That's the podcast.
Yeah. It's like I got to regain my time back. And I was watching these, YouTube videos about how, people get time back when they start their business and they have this team and all these like really cool promises. And it felt so amazing. I was like, well, shoot, I want to do that.
Yeah, it sounds so easy.
Yeah, it sounds so easy. It's like, oh, I can have a flexible schedule. I can work around the kids and I can pick them up and I can spend time with them. Little did I know what I was getting myself into, right? And so, um, I didn't, and me starting my business, which I'm assuming it is for a lot of people, is that when you start, you feel like, okay, I'm just going to work my schedule. I'm just going to be flexible and like work these hours. Not every time that, the day permits that, especially with kids, right? Especially when you have a 1-year-old who, wakes up at random hours of the night or doesn't sleep on his nap time the entire time when you have like a scheduled Zoom call and it's like, oh, shoot, you know? And there's just a lot of emotions that, at least in my experience, that were coming up. It's like, am I even meant for this, right? Is this something for me? And am I right for this? Should I just go back to a W-2 job? And over time, I decided like, no, like in the end, so then I realized it was a skill issue. I was like, okay, I just don't know anything about business. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
It has nothing to do with me. I just don't know what I'm doing, right? It's not me. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so let's start there. Let's build some skills. So leading into, so then with all of that in my past where I felt like, I wasn't, one, not good enough to really get the attention of my parents, because that's a wound that came up for me as I started my business was, I feel like I'm not able to gather attention, which is all a part of business, right? It's like when you start business, I feel like you go on this like self-knowing journey. Like you start to learn more and more about yourself and what your beliefs were and kind of what holds you back from success.
Yeah, I had a guest on the podcast. I think it was Nia, but she said also that business will teach you a lot about yourself. Exactly what
Yes.
and it's so true from my experience as well. It'll show you all your weaknesses and all your strong points and
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
Exactly. It really does. And it's like, okay, do I do the work or do I, you know, let it really defeat me? And it's like I have a bigger mission. And I realized in what I was going through is that my mission is to help parents who want to gain time in business, who want to understand how to build a business, but not feel like they have to work 14 hours a day, right? And really kind of help them with that, with my gift of understanding technology and websites. It's not always about like, building a website, right? It's about, is the website working for you? Is the website an asset? what I like to call it. Is it something that's going to help bring in clients? Is it something that's going to help build your business so that you don't have to spend, so you can leverage that, right? Because we live in a life where there is a lot of technology that we can leverage. It's just like, okay, if you don't understand it, it's okay. That's why you have me. That's why I'm here to help really just give you that clarity and guidance and essentially do it for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that well, or shared your experience, because if you look on social media, that was my experience as well. They make it sound so easy, starting a business, get your time back, stop selling your time for money. And then you realize really quick that a traditional W-2 job is a lot easier because you have set hours and it's very predictable most of the time, depending on the job that you have. And entrepreneurship is not for the weak. And you
Definitely
go through
not.
like periods where it's like crickets and you're like, man, you have to discover like what you're not good at. It's like, it's not easy at all. And and you have to, it's like trial and error, and you end up working more time than you would if you had like a traditional job. And then you're like, man, I did this to have more time, and I don't.
I have less
So
time and
until
less
you
money now.
tweak it, and you find that. Could you give us your top 3 tips for mompreneurs who are starting their business, but maybe they're struggling a bit? They don't know what they're doing wrong, and what can they do to make it a little bit smoother? Like, should they focus on the website to gain more visibility, or networking? Give us like your insights of like how to make the process of like getting your business out there, getting your first customers.
The first thing that comes to mind is don't try to be Wonder Woman. Don't try to take it all, because that is what I did, and that's what I find a lot in a lot of my mom clients, that my mompreneurs out there that I've worked with, is it's like I have to learn all these things, and I gotta make sure I plan my schedule and make sure the kids are good and this is good, and then one thing happens, like the kid, like for me, okay, I'll say from my perspective, I felt like I was doing all the things. I'm like, okay, I did my business, I did this, I reached out, I checked off all these boxes, and my daughter comes to me and she goes, "Mom, I feel like you're always working. I feel like we're not spending enough time with us." I was grateful for that, but it did hurt a little, right? Because it's like
Yeah,
I felt like I was, you know.
right.
It's like I felt like it's like,
Children
okay,
will humble you really quickly.
exactly, and it's like, oh, like thanks for telling me. But in the moment, I felt like I was doing the things. And then I realized I was taking on too much. I realized I think I had signed up for like 2 programs. I had a lot of clients that were very kind of low ticket and high demanding. Like they weren't paying me too much, because in the beginning it's kind of like you start to like, oh, just whatever works, whatever payment plan we can put you on, it's
Yeah.
all
Been
good.
there.
And
I'm guilty of that too. And then you realize like you're not getting paid enough to put in that
yeah,
amount of effort and time. Yeah. And then
yes,
you're like, oh, why did I do this? But you're already
yeah,
committed. And, yeah.
yeah. I feel like there was 2 separate principles in there. So one is don't take on everything, because that's the first thing that'll lead you to burn out, and especially when something doesn't go right. Like if you plan these calls, or you planned the day to go a certain way in order for you to meet the goal that you're looking to meet at the end of the day, or the end of the week, or the end of the month. It's like if those don't go through, you're like, at least for me, it was like instantly, I'm not good enough. I feel so guilty. Like guilt was a big thing. Mom guilt, oh, was such a big thing for me, right?
Right.
It's like I want to spend more time with my kids, but I got to do this, and this is what everybody's saying, how much time you have to invest in business in the beginning, and so I have to do that. Moms, I feel like mompreneurs get to do things differently. You get to create your own role as a mom and an entrepreneur. You're not going to be able to do 14-hour days without some type of consequence from either family or your partner, like navigating that is going to be key. Really redefining your role as a mom and an entrepreneur. So don't try to be Wonder Woman. Give yourself grace. Understand that you're different because moms are different as an entrepreneur. Not that you shouldn't put your best foot forward, but just don't get too hard on yourself when something doesn't go right.
Yeah, and that's what I think we talked about this, how when I started the podcast, it's like I was starting my business and then I was looking for resources and I felt like there was so much like bro advice, hustle, 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 marketing, this and that, and
Yes.
productivity. And I'm like, man, I can tell that their responsibilities and priorities are so different than mine. They don't have a newborn breastfeeding and waking them up in the middle of the night. And, I was like, how can I like talk to people who've done this? And that's why I'm so happy I get to talk to women who've done this. Like you've raised 2 children. Well, you have more children now, right?
I have 4 now.
You
I
have
have
4.
twins.
Yeah, and you have a successful business. So it's so refreshing to hear like the real deal. So I love that. You said like, don't be Wonder Woman. Don't try to do all the things because it's impossible. And the second one also kind of you didn't specify, but also like price accordingly.
Yes.
We could talk about that. Yeah, charge accordingly so you don't feel like, why am I doing all of this and not getting paid properly? So yeah, maybe we can touch a little bit on that.
Definitely. Yeah. Charge what feels good to you. I know there's training. It's like, oh, well, you should charge this amount. You should charge high ticket. You should charge low ticket. You should charge for a membership. You should charge, honestly, check in your energy because that's what money is about. Money is about energy and energy exchange. If you feel like you're over giving and you're not feeling fulfilled or satisfied in terms of the exchange, then you're not charging enough. If you, and it's something that you could energetically say very easily. Like if you could say, I charge $2,000 and it's congruent and it's easy. Or if you say, I charge $500, right? Because it just depends on your energy and what you feel like you can give and what they can, what is that? Reciprocating?
Yeah.
Energy is going to be from your client and what you expect, right? It's like expect a certain amount because you're going to give your 100%. And that's the one thing I love about mompreneurs and moms in business is that they give it all, right? Like not that any other entrepreneurs don't, right?
Right.
But I feel like moms have like a different type of energy or like heart that they put in. And again, it's not to discount anyone else. It's more of just, it's like when you have kids, it's like there's something that you learn or something that changes you.
It changes your frequency, your whole vibration. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so charge your worth. Charge what feels good to you. And if you're like, okay, if your clients say, oh, like that's too much, that's I don't really want to pay that. It's like, okay, where can we balance it then? Okay, maybe I'm not going to give as much, but I'll give this thing that is valuable to your ideal client. And then that's something that they can pay for, right? Because that exists too. It's like, okay, I can charge $10,000 and I could say that very easily and congruently. And it's all about, is that who you're targeting, right? Are you targeting the right client that can pay that? Or is it not the right client? And then what price does that look like for them and how your energy matches with it and where you are energetically. So that's what I would say. It's charge what you feel good about, what you can put out, and what makes sense for your client and you, right? It's supposed to be a win-win. Make sure it's valuable.
Exactly. You want to give them like tons of value, but you also want to feel like motivated. Like, okay, I'm doing this and and I feel good about what I charge and I'm gonna like you tend to like over deliver when you feel good about that you charge accordingly, you charge properly. At least
Exactly.
that's for me. I'll over deliver when I feel like, okay, this is a fair price. I'm super motivated. But if it's something that like somebody talked me way down, that I'm like, and I try to think about that now also as like a customer. Like you want to pay somebody their worth so they do a great job and not have them do like half work because you like try to lowball them too much.
Exactly. Exactly. Because if they're trying to lowball you and then you accept that, right? Because I've done that so many times.
Yeah, me too.
In the beginning, it's like, okay, yeah, yeah, that's fine. Because like you're in the beginning stages and maybe struggling financially a little bit or with time, and it's like you actually end up losing way more time and you're making less money, which essentially is a disservice not only to you but also to the client who's, is paying you but not paying your worth, right? So it's just this big disservice to both of you, and even thinking of it that way, that's kind of what hit home for me, is because I like, and I'm a big giver, and it's like I like to give, 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 and if they're not reciprocating that, I was like, well, I can just meet them where they're at, and I can just try, and I just need to get the experience, which is all true. However, if there's just this, I remember hearing one of my mentors like, well, it's a disservice to them because you're not giving all that you can and you're not supporting them as well as you can. I was like, oh, that's so true. Because I wasn't
Right.
it felt, again, like you said, not motivating. It didn't feel motivating.
Okay. And
So,
what would be a third tip?
yeah. So a third tip I would say is leverage. Leverage systems. Don't be afraid to invest in certain systems if you feel like you'll get time, if you feel like you'll get a return of some kind, even if it's time, energy, or money. It's a worthy investment. Like, for example, a calendar link. I remember one of my past clients had wanted to get all the free like platforms, right? Which is good if it works for you, and to a certain extent. Eventually, you want to invest in something, right? Leverage something that's going to give you the biggest return. So for me, in the beginning, was a calendar link. It's like, okay, I can schedule, I can have reminders, and I don't have to spend time trying to remember to text a
Right.
reminder
Yeah.
or a follow up or anything. Like if I can just take that off my plate for like $10 a month, let's do it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, just something that's like, that gives you some type of leverage. It could be something easy as like a PDF. I did this for a while in the beginning as well, is create like a PDF, and if someone says, yeah, I can, you know, if, if I didn't have time, say for example, when my twins were born, I was breastfeeding. I was breastfeeding a lot. Their schedules were off, so my schedule was off. So I created a PDF for potential clients and said, hey, I can't really be on like Zoom calls. Like, I have very limited time in terms of Zoom calls, but we can voice text. Basically, we did voice texting and I sent them PDFs. That's kind of how I did a lot of business or audio. Like we would just have a phone call and I would say, okay, I'll send you a PDF visual so you know what that looks like. And it was just a leverage in like where I was at the time. I couldn't put a visual out there on like a Zoom call like this, but I was able to send them something that while I was on the call and say, okay, here's a visual that I can't really,
Yeah.
yeah. So just looking into things that you can leverage, um, and not even just systems like a calendar link. It could be leveraging family, right? Support, accepting it, because
Yeah.
that was a big
That's a
thing for
hard one
me.
too for some for moms.
Uh-huh.
It was a hard one for me too, asking for help, accepting help.
Yeah. So leverage in all ways, like accepting help was huge. I remember I used to say years ago was, I feel like nobody helps me. And I'm like, I'm not accepting it, even if it was offered. Like someone says, hey, can I do this? I felt like at the time, this was about, let's see, 5 years ago. At the time, I felt like it's not going to get done right unless I do it. You know,
Right.
it's not going to get done properly. And that's that's just like to me, a bottleneck on your growth and your business and just accepting someone's help. And it's not going to be perfect. And yeah, allowing yourself to be replaceable in certain areas where you can be. If someone can cook, like let them, if someone can help do the laundry or fold or something like that, like leverage that help and support and accept that. Sometimes it's hard. I know. I was there.
So for
Definitely.
so for people, like, where do you meet them in their journey, mompreneur journey, or in their business journey? Do they work with you like in the beginning, or do they run into some, block and then they come to you? Where do you usually meet business owners? And how does that process, what does that process look like?
Totally. So I have two different types of clients. There's the client who's just getting started, who doesn't really know quite their niche or their messaging, and they want to get started on the right foot. Um, really, it's about I call this the Effortless Coaching Academy, where I just teach them how to really start their first program so that they can start selling it. Like, how do we create your first program? How do we create your messaging? Who are you meant to serve? What's your message look like? What's your mission? And kind of get them started there. All the stuff it took me, I think, years and years to figure out for myself. I created a system to help new entrepreneurs do that without spending so many hours like figuring it all out on their own. So that's the first type of client that I help. And the second one is where I get to express more of my tech genius, is where this is where after you've gained success and building your program and selling it, now you have a lot of one-on-ones, because that's where business starts. Business starts when you have a lot of one-on-one clients. So when you have a lot of one-on-ones and you're really seeing your calendar fill up and you're ready to move on to a group program or something that you can do as a group, then that's what I help you do, transition. Now you're ready to go fully online, build an online system, have have like marketing and landing pages and all. Now we're getting into the different part of business where it's time for you to really expand and bring in more clients, but by leveraging group, being able to do things more in group.
Okay.
So yeah.
We kind of talked about like the first part of your life or the first part of your business journey and about the hardships. But I want you to also tell us about like the victories. Like, so you built a successful business, but also you remarried and you had twins.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I remarried to an amazing person. He feels like a twin flame or soulmate, whatever you wanna call it. We're like best friends. Um, yeah, so I remarried. We have been together now 13 years. It'll be 14 in December. But, and we had twins, and both of our twins have autism. However, it's like and having twins with autism is like it's exciting to learn how their brains are different, you know? Um, yeah, so being remarried, he has his own business going, and we have our twins, and now we have 4 kids, and it is challenging, but it's so rewarding. I enjoy being a mom. I enjoy loving on my kids and family and all of that. So this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, in terms of, like, if you don't understand technology, don't let that be the reason why you don't upscale your business. Don't let that be the reason why you don't get out there to enough people. Because I believe coaches are here to change the planet in different ways. Up-level humanity.
Yeah.
We need you. We need coaches.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So those are and we just bought a house recently, and
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. And it's all possible. Being a mom is not something that hinders you from being successful. That's just a mindset. So it's all possible.
It might be at a different pace, but you'll get it done and try to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, if I could do it with 4 kids, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. This has been such an inspiring conversation. And I like to end these conversations with a little bit of like self-care talk, because I think that's something that a lot of moms, it's easy to neglect. And do you have some type of self-care practice or something that you just do for yourself?
For me right now, it's making sure that I feed my mind and I empty my mind. A lot of times we get a lot of mind trash, I like to call it. So I journal every morning. Every morning I take 5 minutes. I used to hear, I'm sure you've heard this before, where I would watch like an influencer, someone who built like a really successful business, and like, you have to do all these morning routine, and you have to do this thing, and it takes you like an hour. For me, it's like I just need to journal, empty out my head. I just need to empty out any negative talk if I have it in the morning, if I feel unmotivated, if I feel because those feelings are there and you can't just ignore them. I think it's very important, especially for moms, to journal that out or talk it out, however it is for you. For me, it's journaling. So I think journaling, really getting your mindset, keeping your mind as optimal. And then physical health, if it's going on walks every day. For me, I go to the gym. I try to go every morning, but at least I try to go once a day or 3 times a week. That's like my minimum.
Yeah. And I like how you said, feed your mind and empty your mind, because that's something that's also under, I don't want to say, like not so talked about. Emptying your mind, learning and unlearning, getting rid of like things that aren't serving us anymore.
Yes. Yes. And I remember for me in the beginning, that was weird. It was like, no, I have to just tough it out. I have to just go on with my day and ignore whatever feelings I'm feeling if I'm feeling sad or emotional that day. We just got to keep going, right? I felt like as a mom, that's about sacrifice.
Right.
I got to sacrifice this. I got to keep going. I had to keep, building my business and helping my family. And like, next thing you know, like, where's what's left of you? And can you really serve your clients from that place? And if you are continuously doing that and wondering why clients aren't coming in, it's because energetically, it's like the universe isn't going to grant you more clients if you're not even granting yourself the space to serve yourself. It's like if you can't serve yourself, you can't serve your clients either. And I learned that kind of the hard way.
If you can't serve yourself, you can't serve your clients. So yeah. Something to think about.
Definitely. So feed your mind, empty your mind of garbage, feed it good things.
Yeah. Move your body. I'm all for that.
Yes, move your body. Movement is so key as well. It doesn't have to be a lot, 5 minutes. Just either go do some yoga, do some, really move your body in different ways. I used to cook and do like, what are those called? Calf raises or like squats or whatever, just to kind of get myself, feeling good, feeling active and strong.
And this is so unrelated, but I just love when I see women who like embrace their gray. And I love your hair. I wanted to say that I like your hair.
Thank you.
Storm superhero.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's the first thing I thought about. I was like, I'm just gonna let the gray. I'm gonna be like
Yeah.
Stan. That's literally what I thought. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
I'm all for it. My mom
Yeah.
has a friend who she's also recently, she like, well, it's been like 2 years now, but she just stopped dyeing her hair. And I think she looks so fierce with like her grays and she like embraces it and she likes it now. And I'm like, yeah, it gives her, especially, I don't know, maybe it's also the juxtaposition because your face is so youthful, but then your hair is like gray, so it looks kind of cool.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love that.
Right. Sorry
Yeah.
that for the segue.
No, no. Don't apologize. Yeah. Yeah. Just embrace yourself, right?
Yeah.
Embrace the gray. Gray came in. I started getting gray when I was like 18. And I said, and I used to diet so much. And then I said, you know what? Just let it, just let it come out. Yeah. Thank you.
So back to back to your business. Can you tell people where they can connect with you and how can they work with you?
Totally. So I have a website. It's called effortlesscoachingacademy.com. There's that. And then Instagram is another one. You look for Chris Moreno, and on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. I'm on both platforms more regularly as LinkedIn and Instagram. Chris
Cool.
Moreno. Just look
So I'll
me
make
up.
sure I have it linked in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Thank you
you.
so much. This was such a fun conversation and you're an
Yes.
inspiring woman. And yeah,
Me
thank you
too.
for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope this was valuable to your audience. Yeah.
For sure. A lot of busy moms put their health on the back burner, and I know because I was one of them. There I was, a nutritionist who preached health and wellness before I had my baby, and then I had my son, and my world was flipped upside down. And during the first 6 months postpartum, the idea of just like working out and eating healthy and all of it, my whole life before just seemed like a distant dream. But as cliche as it sounds, it's so true when they say you can't pour from an empty cup. I remember one day it just dawned on me. I was just like, man, like I matter. I need to take care of myself. Like if I'm not well, then, it's going to reflect on everything. So I just decided like in baby steps, just like I would work with my clients, I had to apply this to myself, start practicing what I preach. First of all, giving myself grace. Asking for help is a big one. And just starting creating healthy routines. Which brings me to my gift to you today. If any of that describes you, or maybe it doesn't, but you just want to prevent that overwhelm, burnout, then I highly encourage you to head over to my website. I'll have the link in the show notes and sign up for my free 8-week Mom Wellness Simplified Roadmap. Once a week, you'll receive a small wellness habit straight to your inbox designed specifically for busy moms. Each new habit will help you make a small but meaningful step towards reclaiming your vitality. So by the end of it, you'll have 8 easy to implement habits that fit seamlessly into your routine. Again, everything is tailored to fit into a hectic schedule because I believe that prioritizing your health shouldn't cause you more stress. I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom running a business on the side, so I make sure everything is achievable. And I know it'll be valuable to any mom out there who needs a bit of a restart, and it's free. So you can enroll now, the link will be in the show notes, and I'll see you there.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.